All right, we ready?
Yeah, fine.
Are we ready? All right.
Yes.
Would you all please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's Monday, August 22nd. This is the regular meeting of Town Council. We have a few members who are absent this evening, Ms. Martin and Mr. O'Rourke, correct? Are absent. They are both on vacation at this very busy vacation time of year, late August. All the members are present. We are moving on to the consent calendar. Are there any comments to the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I will pass the consent calendar. Moving on to communications. A, correspondence from the Director of Community and Social Services to the Town Council dated July 21, 2016 and August 4th, 2016 regarding donations to Project Warmth, the Food Pantry, and the Friendship Fund. B, letter of opinion from the Town Attorney to the First Selectman dated July 28, 2016 regarding the resolution to amend the capital improvement plan to resurface tennis courts at Wolf Park. C, memo from the Tax Collector to Town Council Chairman dated August 2nd, 2016 regarding the request for refunds totaling $7,378.57. D, memo from the Police Chief to the Town Council dated August 3rd, 2016 regarding a donation to the Police Department. E, memo from the Library Director to the Town Council dated August 3rd, 2016 regarding donations to the library to purchase large print books. F, letter of opinion from the Town Attorney to the First Selectman dated August 16, 2016 regarding the proposed master municipal agreement for preliminary engineering projects. G, memo from the First Selectman to the Town Council Chair dated August 18, 2016 regarding donations to various town departments and programs. H, memo from the First Selectman to Town Council dated August 18, 2016 regarding the proposed master municipal agreement for preliminary engineering project resolution. I, memo from the First Selectman to Town Council Chair dated August 18, 2016 regarding appointment to the Architectural Review Board. J, memo from the First Selectman to Town Council Chair dated August 18, 2016 regarding appointments to various boards and commissions. K, memo from the First Selectman to the Town Council Chair dated August 19, 2016 regarding an appointment to the Economic Development Commission. And I just want to reference for the record, I had two other pieces of correspondence that were in sealed envelopes in my packet. So, Ms. Soretta, if you would just reference them on the agenda. L is a letter from the Superintendent of Newtown Public Schools. I will make sure that council gets this. This is the final status report for the Chalk Hill utilization. As you may recall, we've been getting quarterly reports as to the operating costs for Chalk Hill, so this is the final report, so I will make sure everybody gets a copy of that. And there is also correspondence from our auditors, PKF, O'Connor Davies LLP, regarding the audit service plan, and it's a signed agreement that we had already approved. So if you would add those, Ms. Soretta. Do you want these for reference?
Yeah, we'd like to.
Okay. Pass those down. Those would be L and M. Public participation, or any members of the public who wish to participate publicly? Mr. Kirsch? Name and address, please, for the record.
Steve Kirsch, 35 Applegate Lane. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reviewing your packet for tonight, I see you're going to be talking about a resolution for monies to repair the tennis courts. And in reading through that, it was not clear from either the resolution or the attorney's letter how much money had been previously approved by the residents as part of this year's budget. I've since gotten that answer, and which was $250,000. So part of my question is, A, I think you need to let the citizens know that some of this money that you may be voting on or asking the citizens to expend was already approved as part of the budget that the town has already approved. Second point is, I don't know why we have to take this. It appears you're taking this to a town-wide referendum. This is not money that we're bonding. This is money that we have in a contra account. This is money we have in a LoCIP account that's been sitting there for I don't know how long. I've heard various numbers depending on what you're looking at. I don't think there's any reason for a net of $300,000 when you look at what was in the budget already and approved, and then what you look at the total, why that needs to go to a townwide referendum, why we need to have the expense of that. I think the town meeting is fine. I think that if the elected officials of this town believe that this is the right thing to do, then I don't see why we need to go to a formal referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirsch. Any other members of the public who wish to participate at this time? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public participation. Moving on to appointments, we have two. First is Deandra Lynn Usual. Mr. Kapoor?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the council confirm the appointment of Deandra Lynn Musial, 33 Captain's Hill Road, to the Architectural Review Board for a term ending December 5th, 2017.
Motion by Mr. Kapoor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kansky. Discussion, Mr. Kapoor?
Deandra is a lifelong resident of Monroe. She is a recent graduate of Norwich University in Northfield, Vermont, where she received her Master of Architecture degree. She's currently employed by Robert A. Cardello Architects. Deandra presently volunteers at St. Jude's and would like to now apply her education and training to a more specific community board. Deandra will be a good asset to the ARB. She is filling the vacancy created by Jamison Campbell, who, after November, will be our new Democratic Registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? And against? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Moving on to appointment B, Ashish Verma. Mr. Kapoor, are you again?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the council confirm the appointment of Ashish Verma of 232 Moose Hill Road to the Economic Development Commission for a term ending January 31st, 2021.
Motion by Mr. Kapoor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Kansky. Discussion, Mr. Kapoor?
Ashish has been a Monroe resident since 2012. Ashish was previously employed by People's Bank of Monroe prior to his current position with Wells Fargo. He's been with Wells Fargo for the past 4 years. Ashish has a strong interest in the community and would be a valuable addition to the EDC, and this appointment fills the vacancy created by Jerry Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And against? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. There are no further appointments. Moving on to action items. A is the Town Council Committee on Finance, Education, Health, and Public Safety Matters. Ms. LaPlante?
Finance will be meeting Wednesday night. We have a pension fund meeting first, and then at 6:30, and then at 7 or 7:30, the Board of Finance is meeting. Do you have anything for Board of Education?
Yeah, I was at the Board of Education meeting Monday. Two of the things that are, I guess, of interest is the turf field. The lights are up on the field. They talked about the excellent job Dowling Construction is doing. They expect the turf on August 16th. It'll take a week to 8 days to put it, and they're held up a little bit with track resurfacing. The contractors are overbooked. They think they will start in mid-September. They may get a game or two in before they're finished. They also talked about the oil tank. The pit of the oil tank was in bedrock, and I guess it wasn't down deep enough for code, so they're going to have to jackhammer. The vault was 2 feet shallower than it should have been. So, and there was not enough earth, so they're going to have to jackhammer that to get that tank in. It will cost about $8,000, which they will take out of their own budget. They did talk about, and I didn't quite understand this, and I'd like to research it more, but there's a regional services grant that may be coming up. And it's he said a new law, and I don't know whether it's PA 189 E through H or right or a statute as we speak, but I guess it has to do with a certain formula, and it has a potential for merging certain towns, the Board of Education, Human Resources, the finances, and the IT on a regional basis, and they're not too happy with that. And that would happen in 2018. So I don't know too much about it, but I think we need to keep our eyes open on that one. I think the other thing of interest is that there may be an uptick in enrollment He doesn't know how many. He will know, he'll have a better sense the second week of September. But there has been an increase in enrollment. He just doesn't know how much. So, and I think that's kind of germane in planning for schools. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Health, Mr. Kellogg, EMS?
Sure,
Health
thank you.
first.
Thank you. As far as health, at the last Board of Health meeting, I think the one item that they are working on that will arrive at us at some point is they're working on a public pools ordinance. There's a few of them they have in the pike, as you know. We're looking to try and address them at once so we can achieve some economies in terms of reviewing ordinances. So that will be getting at some point. They're almost finalized with that. As far as EMS, they're continuing to work on a couple things that will come to us eventually. One is the RFP for the contracted services, contracted personnel, and their collections policy, which has been kind of getting tweaked and modified, but I think both of those are fairly close to being resolved and getting to LNA.
Okay, thank you. Public safety, Mr. Rooney, police, anything?
In regards to the police, not much going on other than to talk more about the body cameras and what it's going to cost to do in a department this size. And also, we have 2 officers in training, the police officers standing in training in Meriden, and they're expected to be on the road in the spring. That's it.
Okay, and then the fire department, Stephanie has their 100-year anniversary this year, so they're having a big lobster bake on Saturday, the 27th, and all 3 fire departments have elected new officers. That's it for me. Mr.
That's all?
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Pellis. Moving on to action item B is the Town Council Committee on Planning and Zoning, Public Works, and Parks and Recreation Matters. Mr. Reed?
Yep, we have not met since the last council meeting, so we are gonna be focusing on meeting on August 31st. Does that sound right, Nick? Mr. Rooney, I'll get with you as well. So that'll be our next meeting. Well, Mr. Cooper is in the audience. We'll be inviting him, I think, for some of the stuff around the tennis courts, if that's gonna be a result of tonight.
Okay.
As well as EDC has a new chairman now, and we wanna make sure that we're lockstep with them, so that'll be on the agenda for
Who's the new chairman?
I'm not, what's the name of it?
There's just an acting right
There's an
now.
acting.
Oh.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Cooper.
2 more updates under that committee. Conservation, I spoke last time about how Conservation was attempting to meet with P&Z for the fee in lieu of open space for the zoning regs. That's been put on the back burner for now. The zoning reg subcommittee and the P&Z chairman responded to Mrs. Bernaska, who's the conservation chair, and said that the zoning reg subcommittee has too much on their plate right now. So once they clear some things, then they will take that up, but that'll be several months down the road. And the second thing, again, I'm happy to hear that EDC will be coming to see us. They are leaderless right now, and from what I understand from talk, I didn't look up the minutes, but from talking to one of the commissioners that attends, usually there's a little bit of an attendance problem. So when EDC comes to speak to us, I really hope to find out what's going on. I think they're a very important commission in town, and we need to, I think that we need to support them as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Moving on to action item C is the Town Council Committee on Legislative and Administrative Matters. Since I am the only member here present that is on that committee, and ironically I wasn't at that meeting, but I do know that that subcommittee did discuss the senior center front desk job description. They also, that job description was approved for consideration by the town council. They also discussed what has been an ongoing project with regards to a revision of our ethics rules, and those were also finally approved through LNA for consideration by this council. That should be on our next agenda, and I'm sure we'll have a lengthy discussion. There were many changes, much negotiation. I want to commend the Board of Ethics. Mr. Roche is in the audience here, the chairman this evening. A lot of hard work A lot of time was put into the revisions, lots of concessions, lots of negotiation. I think a lot of good, healthy debate and thought went into it. So I hope that council will be pleased with the hard work that was done between our subcommittee and mostly by Board of Ethics. It's basically the agreement before us this evening was also reviewed, the Mass Municipal Agreement, and that was also reviewed by ONA and approved for consideration by council. There's no date established for our next meeting, but I know there's a lot on our plate, including ethics, revisions to the ethical rules have to be done by ordinance, so we'll be getting that moving forward as quickly as possible, and as soon as possible. Moving on to strategic planning, Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee is not able to meet in August because of vacation schedules. I am looking to schedule a meeting in early September. We have a few items on our agenda that we need to get to. So.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Moving on to item E, EMS Facility Work Group.
That work group did meet since our last council meeting. The only additional action they did was to formally add the 7 Fan Hill Road site to the architect's review for feasibility. So we expect actually next week to have a report, preliminary report on the first 2 sites that we identified in terms of feasibility.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Moving on to F, First Selectmen's update, Mr. Vavrick.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As Ms. Kansky stated, the turf project has started laying down the turf. I can say that I was honored to walk on the Wilton turf, which is the same exact turf as we have. And for those of you who have played on or watched your kids play on and walked on those fields, it is like no other turf you've ever felt. It is a really good feeling, same concussion base, and they're very happy with it. They've started their practicing on it, and the players love it. We also took this tour, Mr. Rooney, Mr. Martin, and myself. We were able to take a tour of the Sandy Hook School. It is an amazing facility, state-of-the-art. When I say the best money can buy, it goes beyond that. It's such a tremendous school, the way it's laid out. I can't say enough for them. I also, and Mr. Chairman, if you want, I can bring up some Honeywell things and everything so we can put that up. The day after our last meeting, and I left off page 2 because I sent it in blind CC to the whole council, so I didn't incur any back and forth. And Mr. Kellogg, rightfully so, got back to me, and here's what he wrote from here on in. So I can assure you now, hopefully for the last time, that the Honeywell phase project was completed on 4/1/14, and everything else on there, it's actually, please use your Chrome as a browser and let them know if there's any links that don't work, but everything is done. As you know, we did put phase 2 on hold, so that should be the last of the update. Everything is online, it has been online, thanks to Mr. Kellogg, it's actually clearer. So again, I want to thank you for that. As far as Chalk Hill, it is completely empty now, except for some storage items. The Speech Academy will be having a state inspection on September 9th. That's as soon as they can get it. They've been trying all summer. So they will come in and inspect to see if they can use it. And other than that, the school is pretty much completely cleaned. You have an updated map. Everything is on the Google site. If anybody has any further questions on the Google Docs, they have been updated. And again, I want to thank IT, Ron, our department heads, for getting their wish list in. I also have something coming for the next meeting that'll be a breakdown of everything that they'd like to see in the next 1 to 3 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years. So, we are moving ahead, looking actively at getting those people in, making sure that everybody has their proper planning and zoning work to do, and I'm happy to say we're moving ahead with looking at people to get into Chalk Hill for us. That is it.
Thank you, Mr. Vavrick. Moving on to unfinished business. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to use my discretion to just skip ahead to new business. Under item A, we have the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation Master Municipal Agreement for the preliminary engineering projects and resolution. Ms. Lopellis, do you have a motion?
Yes, I sure do. I make a motion to approve, adopt, and authorize the first selectman to, nice that I read this now, to approve on behalf of the town of Monroe, the resolution regarding the proposed master municipal agreement for preliminary engineering projects.
Thank you, Ms. LaPellis. Motion by Ms. LaPellis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kapoor. For discussion, we have a extremely lengthy 70-plus page agreement. I'm sure everybody enjoyed reading, and a
It's in my
few-page
book
letter
club.
from Attorney Fraccassini, essentially detailing that this is the third of such similar agreements that all in regards to the proposed roundabout at the intersection of Route 111 and 110, the Pepper Street Reconstruction Project, and the Route 25 Bridge Replacement Project. So I thought the letter was fairly detailed. I don't know if anybody has anything to add further to this. All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And against, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. LaPellis.
One word was execute. Authorize the first selectman to execute on behalf of the town of Monroe. I couldn't read my own handwriting.
Two quick new business. I did indicate Ms. Martin had requested that Honeywell remain and be on the next agenda. And Chalk Hill, I did indicate that I would keep Chalk Hill on the agenda. I've changed the terminology slightly to Chalk Hill utilization now. So we'll move on to item B, Chalk Hill utilization. Mr. Vavrick gave us an update. Again, this is on the agenda just for discussion purposes, should something come up in the interim. I know we had some lengthy, we weren't meeting as regular as we were over the summer, so just in case something came up, I wanted to keep it there. Mr. Vavrick, I don't know if you have anything to add. I know you gave us an update. Nothing? Okay. Anybody else? All right.
I'll just
Mr.
add
Keller?
that, so that I will have it on the agenda for the strategic planning committee, so that we can review the current information from Mr. Vavrick and have any dialogue we need to have at that time.
Okay, great. Mrs. Kansky?
As I said at the last meeting, that I'm open to either, raising that building or utilizing it. And we know how much it costs to raise the building. But I would like a cost-benefit analysis by somebody, not me, because I'm not, capable of doing such a thing, but a benefits analysis as to if we rent it out, will it offset the cost for maintaining the building and so on and so forth? Is that on the agenda, or is that in somebody's?
I think we're all hoping for the same thing, so if and when we come to that, it comes to that point, certainly we would mandate that it be presented to us before we would vote on something. Mr. Kapoor.
I just want to add one quick comment. This is the first time that I've heard the first selectman talk about Chalk Hill saying that he was going to present a plan for it. So I'm very excited for the next meeting to see what is presented. I just hope that when we are given something, I had a list of questions, but I'll wait now because we're going to get something at the next meeting. But I just hope that it's complete and thorough and something that we can discuss because, again, we've had this building now in our possession for, I guess, 3 weeks now, and there's dates on the updated plan you gave us tonight that aren't happening. So I hope that by the next meeting, when you present what you're going to present to us, it is complete and we can have a true discussion about this because it's important, and no matter what happens, it's going to cost money that we have to talk about where it's going to come from and how much. So I think that's very important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Moving on to Honeywell. Mr. Vavrick covered this, but I did present the question to Mr. Zamri for Ms. Martin, and he did indicate that Google Docs does contain all of the information, update, measurables, and everything regarding Honeywell. So I'll pass that on to Ms. Martin in her absence, and if she have any questions, I'd be happy to keep it on the agenda for her or anybody else if you want to look at that.
Can I just ask Mr. Kapoor, what on this plan is not happening? This plan that's been up on the website now for about a year.
I don't want to go on to further
I just want to know what it is,
discussion.
so I
You can talk offline. We
Okay.
had an opportunity to discuss it. We'll move on. If you want to speak offline, you guys can do that. Anything further on Honeywell? Nothing. Okay. Moving on to item B, the part-time front, unfinished business, item B, the part-time front desk senior center job description. Is there a motion, Ms. LaPellis?
Sure. Let me just get it out here. I make a motion to approve the part-time front desk senior center job description.
Motion by Ms. LaPellis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Reed. Is there any discussion regarding this position?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Kansky.
I think education was inadvertently left out, so we need to put it in. there's no mention of educational qualification under qualifications.
Oh, I think
You're talking about the job description itself?
Yes. Mhm. Talks about the experience, but no education is in there.
Is Mrs. Yeager?
So you're talking about the third paragraph down, education qualifications?
Right.
Mrs. Yeager's there.
So do you want me to,
Okay.
would you like me to?
What would
put it in,
you-
or-
Well, what type of
I
education are we
thought-
requiring, Miss Lombardi or Miss
Mrs.
Yeager?
Yeager's right here.
We're going to add it in, it inadvertently was left off. It'll be a minimum of an associate's degree or a combined experience.
Okay, and what is that, a minimum of an associate's degree?
Or combined
Yeah, could I
education.
just add to that?
Sure.
An associate's degree in business or related field, or with a minimum of 1 year's experience, or a combination of education, training, and experience should be put in there.
Okay, you want to write that down for Ms. Soretta so we can
Sure.
make sure the record is correct? If you want to say it again, I'll take
Sure,
some copious
associate's
notes.
degree
Yep.
in business or related field, with a minimum of 1 year experience, or a combination of education, training, and experience.
This is right in your wheelhouse, so this is.
Yes, it
this
is.
perfect.
You got it? Okay.
Can I ask, I wasn't at LNA, was this discussed in LNA, this particular provision? Ms.
The
Lombardi?
education?
Yes, it was missed?
No, no.
Okay.
But it should be in there.
I was there, I happened to go to that meeting with Joel.
Any further discussion? Anybody else? All right. So, with the amendment, well, let's do this properly. Do I have a motion, Ms. Kansky? Are you making a motion to add the education qualifications, as you just stated, to the
Yes.
description? All right. So a motion by Ms. Kansky to, we're going to add that education qualification to the description. Is there a second?
I'll second
Second by
that.
Mr. Kapoor. So just as regards to, let's vote as regards to that language, specifically the addition. All those in favor of that addition? And against? All right, so the addition carries 7-0. So we'll consider that part of the job description. Now we'll call for a vote on the description itself. Again, any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor and against? And that motion fails 2-5.
It failed?
What happened?
What happened?
Moving on to,
Mr. Chair?
yes, the vote was 2-5, 2 for, 5 against.
Against the job description or the amendment?
Against the job description. The amendment passed 7-0. So we're going to move on to the resolution to amend the capital improvement plan. The reason why I moved this up, or moved it back, is because I imagine most of the discussion would be in regards to this particular matter. We have two, just to set the table, we have two resolutions. The first resolution is a condition precedent to the second resolution. The first resolution is before all of us. There were copies here on the dais. The first resolution seeks to amend the capital improvement plan so that, as required by the state of Connecticut, in order to utilize the LoCIP funds for all of 8 tennis courts. Our capital plan originally only indicated repairs to 4 of the tennis courts, so we need to amend the capital plan in order to accomplish that. So that's the first resolution. And then we have a second resolution, and we'll get to the actual motions in a moment. The second resolution is regarding the calling for a town meeting, and as you'll see, and as you recall, Attorney Fraccassini was asked to give a legal opinion on the necessity of a town meeting to begin with, based upon the expenditure of the funds. has also decided, again, it's within our purview to vote, but we can have a regular town meeting as called for in our charter, or we can have an adjourned town meeting, which is the resolution that's before us with the, I'm assuming the thought process was that the turf field, we had mentioned as a council that future projects, we had discussed potentially a threshold, monetary threshold that we thought would be appropriate for certain projects. And I don't think we ever came to a consensus or resolution, but I think it may have been thought that the new procedure was to go to an adjourned town meeting. By no means, I don't think that was ever voted on, but I have to assume that was the thought process behind this particular resolution. It didn't come in my direction. It came late before our agenda came out, very, very late before the agenda came out. So we're not married to this resolution by any means, and certainly something that I think we should all consider, whether or not we want to spend those funds. I will say as opening comments, because we did do it with the turf field, personally, I felt that that was a very large expenditure. It was certainly divisive, and we had a lot of comment on that, so I thought that was the appropriate procedure. I'm not necessarily sure I feel the same way about this particular project, but that's my personal opinion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
would you entertain a question or
Sure.
some discussion?
Sure.
I don't understand, this is LoCIP funds, they're state funds.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a grant. Why would we go to a referendum on money that's on the books from the state? This is not, talk about the turf field, but that was our money, it was bonding. This is state money, and I don't agree with a referendum at all.
And I think it can be argued, and we had this discussion in the last meeting, I don't recall if you were present or not, but I think we had a philosophical discussion as to whether or not a town meeting was even necessary because of the
Really?
type of funds.
Yeah, and I was
again,
there, again, I said it was a grant from the state.
Right, and I think it's a gray area. Again, I don't sit here as town attorney. We sit as an independent body, and we can certainly do whatever we think is appropriate.
But I don't remember ever spending LoCIP funds and having it go to a town meeting even, let alone a referendum. I think, we can agree that we can spend LoCIP money, and you have to get permission from the state as to the project, because it has to be, constructed, a capital item. But I don't see where we're going through all of this. I don't understand it.
That's why we're here to discuss it.
Okay.
And you have more experience than many of us, but, so, let's open this, before we present the motion, so we know how we're proceeding, we should have an open discussion. Before we go down that road, I would ask, I know Mr. Banowski's present, I don't know, Mr. Banowski, do you have any information in your conversations with the state or anybody else that required any type of legislative procedure in order to
Yeah, we
accomplish
have
this?
to pass on it.
What LoCIP funds do, in order to spend them, the project has to be included in the capital improvement plan. So because we're looking to change the scope of this project, the capital improvement plan would have to be amended.
Right, we understand that.
But
The
the
question,
town council,
the question is, if we approve I guess the question was presented last time, do we need a town meeting? And that's why we deferred to Attorney Fracasini to give us a
Correct.
legal opinion as to whether it was necessary. I
Right,
know it's his
and the
opinion.
size of the project was going from 250 to somewhere in the neighborhood. We've got quotes right now between 450 and 550, so it is going to increase by $150,000.
but not town money.
It's not
You've
town
got-
money, but
you've
the
got the-
appropriation for the project would increase, and the way our charter's written, it is a little gray.
I agree, it is correct. But that doesn't mean we have to do an adjourned town meeting. Either.
No.
We can call for a regular town meeting.
I agree with that.
So, thoughts on type of meeting?
I think that it's, in the spirit of being sure we're doing things appropriately, I think it makes sense to put this forth to a town meeting, but I concur that I think an adjourned town meeting or AKA referendum is not necessary in this case.
Okay.
I'd agree.
Anybody else?
I would agree with Mr. Kellogg and you and whoever else is saying that.
Mr. Kapoor, do you have an opinion on this after you finish reading the charter?
I thought I had it memorized by now. Regular town meeting.
Okay. Mr. Rooney?
Regular town meeting.
Mr. Reed? Regular town meeting?
Regular town meeting.
Okay. All right, so I think we have a consensus on the vehicle.
So now I can read it.
So let's first, Ms. Lapellis, if you would present the actual resolution on the
Okay.
first resolution regarding the amendment of the capital improvement plan.
I make a motion to approve the resolution to be adopted by the Town Council of the Town of Monroe, amending the capital improvement plan regarding the authorization and appropriation of $550,000 for the Wolf Park Tennis Court project.
Motion by Ms. Lapellis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rooney. Discussion. So I think we've discussed this. I asked Mr. Cooper to come this evening. We haven't formally heard from him regarding this project. So Mr. Cooper, if you just come forward and just give us a quick highlight, quick overview. I know you took the time to come down. I want to thank you, so I didn't want you to have to not participate in our meeting.
Thank you very much. As well, you may or may not know, but the tennis courts at Wolf Park have fallen into significant disrepair over the last,
Yep.
I guess, 14, 15, 16 years. And in doing some research, it's been clear to me that the department, the town, has decided that they wanted to patch the courts to try to keep them in a playable and safe condition. We have reached critical mass at this point, and they're no longer fixable. And the first 4 tennis courts are the ones that are in the most dire need of resurfacing. So Mr. Leo just mentioned earlier that we originally had talked about doing 4 of the tennis courts, but when we looked into it further, one of the things that we discovered was that there was not a significant increase in expenditure to do all 8, as opposed to doing 4, then waiting a few more years, and then come back and doing the other 4 at that point. Initially, we had thought that we could go ahead and piggyback on the correct bid, but due to the fact that the dollar amount went over what was allowed for the wage limits, we found out that we had to go ahead and essentially get some more numbers together so that we were meeting the Davis-Bacon Act and everything else like that. So that is where we are. That is how we've come to this place. I do want to add that Parks and Recreation, our tennis program, is a very significant revenue producer for the town. And also, I think probably even more important is the fact that the Wolf Park tennis courts are the home courts for the Massac High School tennis teams. Where we are right now is that we're going to be doing a concrete pour, a post-tensioning concrete pour as opposed to a bituminous, and that's going to give us the ability to eliminate the cracks that are inherent with bituminous. The only challenge that we're facing right now is the fact that in order for us to have these tennis courts in a playable condition for next spring for Massac High School, we do need to move on this. The concrete does need to set for 30 days, so before we get too much further into the fall, we need to move forward and we need to make a decision on this and get it done, because the concrete is going to have to set up, and we're going to be putting down some temporary lines so that the Massac High School team can play next spring. We're going to follow that once the weather warms up, and we're going to color coat the entire surfaces. So that is where we are. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer for you.
So the courts will be green again, correct?
Not necessarily. We will choose that color.
Could they match my eyes if you made them green?
I know we could.
Can you tell us about the selection process for the contractor?
There's only a few contractors in the state that do the post-tensioning concrete, and we have heard from 2 of those 3 as we speak. And as Mr. Bonafide said, the price range is from $450 up to $550, and that would also include not only the tennis courts, but also include
Fence?
painting, getting new fencing. It would also include painting the poles that are there, putting new lamps in, So it's a complete package that we're looking at in order to get the tennis courts up to snuff.
And you're going to put out an RFP?
That is what we think is the most logical thing to do at this point, as opposed to going out to bid.
Any other questions?
No.
You see me rifling through my phone because I'm looking for the proper language for a town meeting as opposed to what I have, so I apologize.
So you're gonna go back and have
I'm not
monitor?
playing on the
Are you gonna
internet.
have monitors and things like the old days when I used to play, or? you
Well,
haven't
I'm
thought-
not gonna leave that. Well, we'll see.
You haven't thought of it
If we-
yet.
If we build it, they will come, there's no question about it.
Right.
And then we'll cross the bridge when we get to it.
Because used to be lots of fights when,
There used to be a lot of, from what I understand, tennis and, you know, in other places that I've worked in, it's been a very
Yeah.
active place.
yeah.
The Parks and Recreation Commission has endorsed this project.
Yeah, they have.
And
They're
they,
fully aware that we're
Okay.
trying to go in this direction.
Okay.
And as you know, we're taking some of the funds from the LoCIP account in order to augment the expense.
Mr. Benowski, do you know what the balance in the LoCIP account is?
Ballpark, 778, 79,000.
Okay. Ballpark. And so, just so we're clear on the financing, we're using a number of 550 to be appropriated, 250 of that we've already, is in our budget, correct? 250 of the 550?
250 of the 550, 125 from the Parks and Rec Program Fund, 125 from LoCIP. So that would move, so we're upping that from 125 to 150 from the Parks and Rec Program Fund, and from 125 to potentially as much as 400 from LoCIP.
Okay,
And again, the way LoCIP works is you spend it and then you get reimbursed.
right. So there's no concerns if one of the higher bids, if we determine that there's not enough money, there's sufficient funds to fund the project, or we're confident it's not gonna go above 550?
That's, yeah, well, when we got the second bid in, or the second quote in, I should say, and we saw a $100,000 gap, because originally, last meeting, I think I had come in at, I mentioned 500,000 was the.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why we bumped it up to 550.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Cooper, for coming in. It's always more comforting when we have someone, a department head here to describe it. All right, so any further discussion with regards to this amendment? All right, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? And against? So the resolution to amend the capital plan passes 7-0. And now we're left with calling for a town meeting. So I just want to make sure I do this correctly. So I'm just going to call for a quick 5-minute recess, if you don't mind, so I can get the language proper, and then we'll reconvene. Don't go too far, please, because I may find it quickly, and then we'll reconvene. So just a quick recess, please.
Do you want me to go get the,
Yeah, if you could get any past, I'm trying to find it in here, and of course, I put town meeting in my phone, and everything comes up.
What's your packets?
We have the packets in
Paragraphs
mind.
pertaining to the referendum from the document you've already done?
That's what I've already done, but I just want to make sure. I don't want to call a special meeting for something that's nonsensical.
I don't understand.
When was the town meeting?
There was actually so much back and forth with the turf field, I can't even find an email for a regular town meeting.
We had town meeting on the turf field.
No, the turf field was this kind, this is the problem.
We had one
Come
on,
back in 5
we have
minutes.
something on vehicles, purchasing,
The DPW.
Oh, the
the
truck.
bathroom?
When was that?
Recently,
It was recently,
it
right?
was.
Was it 6/13?
It was the most recent meeting,
So 6:13, he might be
yeah.
right.
Would it be in the, would
We
it be
only
in the
didn't hear
minutes,
you
or
on
would it be in
Sunday.
the packet?
I don't think it's in anything, I think I have it in my own packet, that's the problem. You guys don't get it.
No, it doesn't matter. You got
The
lots of
resolutions are in your packets?
The
I think
resolutions
so.
are there.
Not the call for a town meeting ones, I'll find it.
I'm wondering in the minutes, do we record
Well, that's
that?
what I'm looking for, because I keep the minutes always.
Here it is, here's one.
No, go ahead.
Here's your May 23rd.
Right, that would be much better, exactly.
have to use Google Plays, Google,
We didn't on the, whatever we're using, we didn't.
There's an email from you. I think that's what it is.
Is it in mine?
That's on the list for.
Fire apparatus. Because I keep the minutes for months, and then I just file them.
We haven't had one in a while. Kevin, you found anything or not?
no, I stopped. Let me look. Let me look. Would it be in a
How's your
voting
husband
record?
Yeah, I got one right here.
Are we looking for the wording for?
For the
Yeah, it's
town
different
council?
than this, because this is a referendum, so you don't vote.
Yeah,
That might,
but don't we just call for a town
No,
meeting
well,
and
it's
have the attorney write up the?
Yeah, but that's not
Because
gonna
he
work.
has the script. But I used to always have a script. And then just change the date.
This is the town meeting script.
Yeah, because it just is.
Notice is hereby given
Marsh
at a
used
town
to-
meeting of the electors and
Yeah,
citizens qualified to vote.
because
town
Marsh
meeting
used to
held
just change the
consider
date
and
for
act
me.
upon the following resolution.
Right, and then I always just change the date, that's all.
Yeah, you know what? We have, in our meeting, in our voting records, it will be there. If someone can tell me what date we did the truck,
I think you're right about the July 13th, Kevin.
it's not in that one.
This one was February 4th, 2015, if you can go back that far, but you can't.
February 4th, 2015?
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
No.
All right, I'm just gonna
You
go.
can wing it, because
No, that's fine.
we always get a question.
Have you, Frank,
Yeah.
have you floated any dates by Sue and Judy?
I haven't floated any debts by anybody,
Oh, okay.
because this just came over Friday, like everything else that comes over at the last minute.
Because that's my only concern, is they have to,
I know, but if we wait any more, I mean, when's our next meeting? 2 weeks?
12th, September 12th.
So we'll have the town meeting before?
I mean, I can call, if you have a date, I can call her and see what
I
her.
was gonna put it for the 12th.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, the
that's
same
it,
as
yeah.
our next meeting.
7:30.
Right, 7:30, it's going to go through.
Come on, it's gonna go through.
You're right.
No, you're right, you're definitely right.
So we'll just have to come.
Yeah, I don't know what they're, no.
I'll try to do it. I mean,
This
I don't
never
know. I
had
don't
any,
have
it doesn't
Ron
have any
funding.
special like words.
It does, though. It does, it's not this, and you have to have the resolution proper.
Okay, well, that you have, because you have.
The resolution's here.
Yep, yep, yep.
I probably could just, I mean, you do things so formal, I probably could just say I call for a town meeting on September 12th to
Yeah.
consider the resolution.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Because that's all it was.
Yeah,
just
I'm
that
not
Marcia
finding,
would give it to me on big script so I could read it, but it was the same words. But you definitely.
Here it is. Town of Monroe resolution amending the resolution regarding the special town meeting and referendum vote.
No, that's a
It's
special.
That's a- oh,
It's
that's
not a
special,
special
yeah.
meeting.
We need the one that's on the truck, right?
I mean, I'll do it. I just don't want to call you back in, guys. I'm doing
You
it,
know what?
I'm doing it out of respect for all of you. I'm keeping you from your dinner right now, out of respect for keeping you from your dinner in the future.
We don't care.
I already ate.
The doctor said I had to lose 10 pounds
Yeah,
anyway.
I think I'm just gonna,
I don't know if a
Imagine
resolution.
the doctor saying I should lose
This
10
needs to
pounds.
be, this is what would,
Can you imagine a doctor saying, I said, what are you kidding? So I said, you know, chocolate is the top of my food chain.
here,
And
try
under it
that.
comes raw butter and salt. He said, you gotta be kidding. I said, no, that's what I eat. Chocolate, raw
I got
butter
it.
and salt.
Yeah, I'm good.
And none of those things are
You
carbohydrates.
ready?
Yes, we're ready.
All right, we're gonna reconvene. Based upon our prior discussion, it was a consensus of council that we call for a town meeting pursuant to charter rather than an adjourned town meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead, based upon that directive, and I'm gonna call for a town meeting, to be held on September 12th, 2016, at 7:30 PM at the Monroe Town Hall, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, to consider the resolution entitled an appropriation. Let's make sure we get the resolution. Resolution
To amend the capital. I have it here because I just read it. Here it is.
But that's not what's being voted on. This
Here's the
one.
one, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not the one that's being voted on. I just want to make sure the resolution that we just voted on has the proper language in it. The sum of $550,000 be appropriated
That's it.
for the resolution. Sum of $150,000.
This is the one that I just read.
I understand.
This is to amend.
The problem is the first resolution was to adopt and amend the capital improvement plan, which we passed. Now we need to have a resolution to expend the sum of money. So we need we need to vote another resolution, and we have to call a town meeting on that resolution. So first we need to approve the resolution as a council before I can call for a town meeting. So that's the resolution that we don't have.
Why can't you
Frank, what
use this
exactly are you looking
resolved?
for?
Why can't you use this
Because there's
resolved
a
without
bunch
the word
of them.
special?
We need the resolution and the expenditure of the money. So we have a
So be it
resolution before us,
resolved.
there's no, so we're gonna vote on a resolution, it's gonna be entitled resolution regarding a town meeting and a town meeting on the appropriation of $550,000 for the Wolf Park Tennis Court project.
Period. If you want, you can read the rest of this, so it should be.
The resolution shall be as follows, resolved that should the Board of Finance approve the $550,000 appropriation documented by the First Selectman and the Town Council for the Wolf Park Tennis Court project, a town meeting shall be called to be held on September 12th, 2016 at 7:30 PM at the Monroe Town Hall, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, 06468, to consider and act upon and to receive communication from the First Selectman, Town Council, and Board of Finance regarding the resolution entitled Resolution regarding the appropriation of $550,000 for the Wolf Park Tennis
Right.
Court project. And further, that the town clerk shall cause legal notice of such meeting to be posted and published in accordance with the town charter and law.
And we know there's 3 parts of that. Steve has to make a part, you have a part as this chair, and then Steve has to do a part. That's it?
The resolution to be considered town meeting shall be held to consider the resolution of the following question. Shall the town of Monroe appropriate the sum of $550,000 for the cost of the Wolf Park Tennis Court project, such project to include but not be limited to the construction and resurfacing of the 8 tennis courts located at Wolf Park, and the conversion of one of the existing tennis courts into a pickleball court, and the replacement of the fence surrounding all 8 tennis courts and improvements in connection therewith, as well as all appropriate costs associated with the carrying out of said project, and to authorize the use of $150,000 of funds from the town's recreation programs fund, also known as the Parks and Recreation Contra account, and the sum of $400,000 from the local capital improvement program, otherwise known as LOCIP.
All right, that's it. Did you say 7 or 7:30?
I said 7:30.
I second it.
So there's a resolution on the table, second by Ms. Lapellis. It's got plenty of information in there. Any further discussion? No? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor and against? So we will officially call for a town meeting to be held on September 12th, 2016 at 7:30 PM here at Town Hall, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut. And
Board of Finance
proper
meeting.
publication be had, subject to the Board of Finance approving the resolution and appropriation. Second, public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to participate in the second public participation session?
And you know, Steve, you have to get Vita to post the ad.
Seeing none, I'll close second public participation. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion by
moved.
Ms. LaPella, second by Mr. Reed. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you for your patience. That was